And I feel free to now move on to the next paper. The paper is about realistic virtual humans from smartphone videos. Actually, this is a collaboration between Dortmund, Bielefeld, and Würzburg University. The co-authors are Stefan Wenninger, Jascha Achenbach, Andrea Bartel, Mark Latoschek, and Mario Botsch. Stefan will give the presentation, and this will be a live presentation.
Yes, thanks for the introduction. I hope you can all see the screen. Yeah, my name is Stefan Wenninger, and I'm going to present our work on realistic virtual humans from smartphone videos. To motivate this work a little bit, we need virtual humans or avatars in several fields. You can think, for example, about entertainment, movies and games come to mind, or some fitness applications. There is virtual try-on. You can think about social interaction applications in VR, and also some medical applications like VR therapy. And a lot of work has been done in this field already, also in our group, this previous work where a multi-camera rig was built, and through a combination of multi-view stereo and template fitting, an avatar was generated. But of course, this approach is pretty expensive, and also it's stationary. Aldi and colleagues lowered the cost of the hardware setup by only requiring a single camera, which captures a person rotating 360 degrees. But using this approach also led to quite a significant drop in reconstruction quality, as you can see here. So our goal with this work was to keep the high realism, keep the high detail in both geometry and texture, while still only requiring a smartphone video. And here is the result that we get. To give you an overview of the method, we start by extracting single frames from a smartphone video. Then we input these frames into multi-view stereo reconstruction software, which generates the dense point cloud. We use template fitting to recreate the geometry of the scanned subject. And then we use a graph cut texture generation method in order to create the texture. But you can already see here, especially in the face region, the detail is lacking and there are quite a lot of texture artifacts. So we take this full body scan and merge it together with a separate head scan. So we take a second video that captures the head of the person, and then we basically repeat the same process. Extract a point cloud, do template fitting, and then we merge these two results together to get our final avatar. To go through this in more detail, here you can see the videos that are the input for our method. On the left-hand side, you see the full body video, which consists of two orbits of the person, around the person. The first one capturing the upper body and the second one capturing the lower body. And on the right-hand side, you see the separate head scan where we capture the head in a close-up fashion. These videos were shot on Pixel 3 in 4K resolution, but we also tested with other smartphones capable of 4K resolution and got similar results. From these videos, we want to extract single frames that can be put into a multi-view stereo reconstruction software. And we wanted to ensure that the subject is covered uniformly. So we want the extracted frames to have uniform movement in between them. And we ensure this by optical flow analysis, where we try to estimate the movement in between frames by averaging the length of the 2D optical flow vectors, and then extract frames with uniform movement in between them. This defines then a set of images that can be passed on to the multi-view stereo reconstruction software, and we use Agisoft Metashape for this, where at first the camera locations are estimated and the camera orientation is estimated. But still here in the sparse point cloud, you can see a lot of background that we don't want to have in our reconstruction. So the next step for us is to estimate the 3D volume that we actually want to density reconstruct. And we do this by fitting a plane through the detected camera locations and then extend this plane in normal direction in order to define a 3D volume that we want to reconstruct. And you can see the result here. We have none of the background left, only the floor is still present. now we want to use a template fitting approach in order to fit a human body template to this point cloud. Here you can see the template that we use. It consists of around 20,000 vertices. It comes with a UV layout for texturing. It provides a skeleton that can be used for body and hand animation. And it also facilitates facial animation through a set of predefined blend shapes, and also a separate eye and teeth model. Additionally, we try to initialize our fitting process by using a statistical PCA model, which we created by fitting this template to over 1,000 full body scans. And then we build a 30-dimensional statistical model. And on the left-hand side, you can see some of the space that this model captures. And the template fitting algorithm that we use can incorporate the landmark information in order to initialize the fitting process. And you see the corresponding landmarks for the template mesh here. And in our previous work, we manually selected the corresponding landmarks on the point set, but we wanted to make this process more automatic as well. So we decided to use OpenPose, which embeds this 2D skeleton into the input images and also allows for facial feature tracking. And we can use these 2D landmarks now to back project the found landmarks onto the dense point cloud, and the result can be seen here. So we use only a subset of the detected landmarks, project them back onto the point cloud, and use this to initialize the template fitting process. Here you see the first step of the template fitting process. So we first try to optimize the pose of the template in order to match the point cloud. The second step additionally optimizes shape by using the statistical model that I showed earlier, which already fits more into the point cloud. And the last step is a fine scale deformation, which matches the dense point cloud even more closely. Details about this template fitting process can be found in the paper. But this already defines the geometry of the avatar, and now we are left with the task of creating the texture for the avatar. On the left-hand side here, you see the partial textures, which result when rendering the final geometry back into the input images and extract the color information from the input images. And on the right-hand side, you see partial visibility maps, which encode the angle between the surface patch and the viewing vector. And these two sets of images are now used to create a complete texture of the subject. And we use graph cut optimization in order to stitch these partial textures together. This optimization basically tries to fulfill two objectives. It textures faces from partial textures which had a high visibility score. And the second objective is to reduce visible seams on patch boundaries. And you can see the result here. On the left-hand side, this is Agisoft Metashapes texture generation process, where you can see that the letters on the shirt are really blurry and there are a lot of seams in between the textures. And on the right-hand side, you see the graph cut optimization, where now the letters are clearly readable and generally the texture is more sharp. So to show some more results, here you see a comparison of our work with previous low-cost methods by Aldik and colleagues. And you can see that we surpass the previous low-cost method in both geometry detail and texture detail. Here you can already also see a close-up of the two. When we compare our approach with our previous work with the expensive multi-camera setup, you can see that we almost can match the quality of the expensive camera rig. We are not quite there yet, but it is already a really nice direction. And here again, a closer view of the two. Our avatars are ready for skeletal animation. So here you see them embedded into the Unity game engine and simply playing this idle animation. They are also capable of facial animations, which here also is embedded into the Unity game engine, and the blend shapes are controlled by FaceWare's Unity plugin. For the quantitative evaluation, we measured the reprojection error, which in the following way. So on the left-hand side, you see the input image. In the center, you see the mesh geometry rendered back onto the input image. And on the right-hand side, we additionally add the texture information. And then we simply calculate the color distance in LAB space between the rendered image and the input image. And we did this for 33 participants. So we scanned them with both our method and the previous expensive multi-camera rig method by Achenbach and colleagues. And not surprisingly, the multi-camera rig performs better. So the root mean square error here is around 20% lower. But keep in mind that our hardware costs are only 1% of theirs, and we do not have a stationary scanner setup. Timing, so our pipeline can produce these virtual humans in 20 minutes total, so end-to-end, including the video capture, transferring onto the PC, through the point cloud generation, template fitting, and texture generation. And of course, there are also still some limitations to our work. For example, the multi-view stereo approach fails with dark clothing, for example. You can see at the left-hand side, there's a lot of missing data in the point cloud. And when subjects move a lot during the scanning, during the capture process, sorry, there's also a lot of missing data in the point clouds and sometimes also some duplications. So additionally, we have some geometry inaccuracies, for example, in fine detailed regions such as the ear, and areas that have not been seen well during the capture process also show some texture artifacts still. To conclude, we presented this low-cost method for generating realistic 3D avatars. The whole process is fully automatic, so you only need to provide the 2 input videos, and yeah, the result is the virtual human in about 20 minutes. The resulting quality is almost on par with expensive scanner setups. For future work, we want to improve the point cloud reconstruction by segmenting the input images, for example, in foreground and background, but you could also think about some semantic segmentation of the input images. And we also wanted to investigate if a designated scanner app could help control the capture process more. We want to thank all the scanned subjects and also the German Federal Ministry for Education and Research, BMBF, for funding this work through the project VITAS. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stefan, for this fascinating work. To me, it's really exciting and hardly believable that you might just use a smartphone, yeah, scan a person, and then you have an avatar. So really great. In fact, I don't see any question in Poll Everywhere yet. So maybe I ask the first one. You are definitely aware of that there exists quite a different approach to embed avatars into virtual reality applications. And this is just taking images of users and then transfer them to a remote place. So this is an approach that, for instance, Bernd Fröhlich and his group are using. What would you say, what will prevail in the end? Will it depend on the application, or would you say it's always better and more flexible to have a model, to have an avatar as a 3D model?
I mean, so one downside of just streaming these depth images is that you can only visualize what the person is actually doing. And here we have like these fully animatable virtual humans that could also be used as virtual agents that are currently not controlled by anyone. And the second thing that I would say is that, of course, the bandwidth problem is a bit higher with these approaches. So you have to stream whole point sets over the network instead of just some mesh data and a skeleton.
I see. There is one obvious question that showed up in Poll Everywhere. Are you willing to share the underlying code? So is it open source, or because I think many are eager to try it?
It's currently not open source because also our template model and our statistical model were both bought from like commercial vendors. So for example, for the statistical model, we use the CISA database in order to create this model. So if we switch the template to open source variant, then maybe we could share, but as of now, it's not the case.
Okay. Now questions come in, and we still have 1 or 2 minutes time. So another question is, you state one of the limitations is dark clothing. Would darker skin be difficult as well?
Um, as you can see on the left-hand side, if the slides are still up, we actually also did a reconstruction with a dark-skinned person. So, and they also had dark clothing on. So I think it's a question of lighting then. So if the multi-view stereo reconstruction still can make out some details in the input images, then it's no problem. But yeah, if it's just yeah, if it's too dark with no features to detect, then the multi-view stereo reconstruction
Mm,
fails.
yeah, okay. I see. Another question is about the general problems that you always have with clothing. So, do you still rely on tight clothings?
I guess the results look better with tight clothing, yeah, and we don't explicitly model clothing as like a separate layer over the skin. Um, uh, yeah, so uh, I guess this is one limitation as well, yeah, and also for all photogrammetric
Okay.
approaches like hair or accessories and stuff like this is hard to reconstruct.
Yeah, I see. One last question, and I would like you to give a short answer because we are running a little bit out of time. So you are already using body tracking, open post to reduce errors. So do you see an opportunity to further reduce the error due to subject motion, or do you simply need better body tracking?
I think this could be a direction to compensate the movement that the participants inevitably do to use more solid pose tracking during the capture process and then feed this into the template fitting process. So now we estimate one pose for the whole capture, but this could be split up into several chunks and
Mhm.
yeah, separately estimate pose for each of the individual subsections of the capture process. Yeah.
Okay, Stefan, once more, thank you very much for this interesting work. Of course, thanks to all the other co-authors as well. There is one more question left, so please discuss this question offline in Discord, yeah, because we
Sure.
are running a little bit out of time. So thank you again.